Welcome to Drapers Connects. My name is Graham Moran, and I am the Associate Editor at Drapers. This Drapers Connects is our series of digital events and webinars and discussions such as this that we launched at the beginning of lockdown to connect the industry and discuss some of the key issues, opportunities, and challenges that are taking place at the moment. So thank you all for joining us. If you're watching live, please do interact with us. You can use the Q&A function, hopefully at the bottom of your screen. You can send in questions for our panel, and we'll do our best to kind of answer them throughout and at the end. So today's webinar is in partnership with Shopify, and we'll be exploring how you can merge the best of online and in-store, and particularly how to kind of optimize omnichannel strategies for the consumer today and what is driving those kind of consumer behaviors. So I'm very happy to welcome today's panel. Joining us, we have Paul Firmin, who is the co-founder of Earl East. We have Diarmuid McSweeney, who is the co-founder of Coffee. We have Ben Buxton, who is the e-commerce manager at Fairfax and Fairfax, and Phil Wise, who is the product marketing lead for international retail at Shopify. So thank you, panel, for joining us. As I said, today's webinar is in partnership with Shopify. So I'm going to hand over to Phil, who will start us off with a quick introduction.
Great stuff. Thanks, Graham. And thanks, everyone, for giving up your lunch break or whatever you were going to do on this glorious day and joining us on this webinar. So thanks for your time. And thanks to all the merchant panelists who've joined as well. My name's Phil Wise, as Graham said. I lead the product marketing for international retail for Shopify. So effectively, that means I'm responsible for rolling out Shopify's retail offering. So that's our point of sale software that seamlessly integrates with our e-commerce platform. It's our POS hardware, so like our card reader and terminal, again, that seamlessly integrates with the software. And it's our Shopify payments, which allows our merchants to take payments. So for those of you who don't know Shopify, in a nutshell, we've got two major offerings. One is our e-commerce platform, which allows our merchants to start businesses, build and grow these businesses by using beautiful templated websites. And then the other element, which I look after, is our integrated POS offering that integrates perfectly with that platform to give that omnichannel view. So allows our merchants to sell online, offline, and anywhere in between. So without further ado, I'll pass it back to you, Graham. Thanks.
Thank you, Phil. So as I said, today we're going to be discussing how you can harness the power of digital in physical stores, and particularly the challenges, but more importantly, the opportunities that are a result of doing that. And I thought what we could start doing is kind of unraveling why we've got to this point. You know, what are the trends or the issues or the consumer behaviors that are driving this as a strategy for success? And we're going to be using a recent report that Shopify released about shopping trends, which I found super interesting. So the first trend to discuss is obviously in a post-COVID world, thankfully, we can almost say that now. We've seen an increased demand for in-store shopping. I know I personally was very happy to get back into stores. And this, you know, pre-COVID, lots of people in retail, particularly us at Drapers, spoke a lot about experiential retail and the need for experiences in store. And it's our understanding that this is only going to increase. The trend is not going anywhere. And as a result, if you have a store, your store really has to stand out. So this kind of idea of experiential retail is going to stay. But what's interesting is that consumers want this idea of connection and community and experiences, but they also don't necessarily, or they need motivation to get out of their houses, get off of their websites and come into your store. So how do you balance that kind of offering enough online, offering enough in store, and kind of the contrasts of the two is I thought where we'd start. Maybe Diarmuid, why don't you tell us, well, firstly, are you seeing a return to stores? Is that happening for you? And if so, what are you doing to successfully turn them back?
Great, thanks, Graham. Simple answer, yes. longer version. So for people who don't know, Gym Plus Coffee is a direct-to-consumer athleisure brand. We were started in 2017, and now we have majority of the business is digital, but we now have 12 stores across the UK and Ireland, and we have a team of approximately 200. So it's been a crazy couple of years as a co-founder, a bit of a roller coaster, and we've partnered with Shopify all the way on the e-com side, and as Phil said, outlining some of those POS products as well that Shopify provided. So I guess the kind of seamless interaction between the two parts of the business has been great for us as a relatively small brand. To go back to your question, yes, we're seeing a massive return to store. I think it all comes down to connection, community, and experiences, and that's what our brand is built on, regardless of whether that's e-commerce or in store or physical retail. We started in 2017, trying to build a community around the idea to make life richer. And central to that is the experiences that the community enjoy together. So in 2018, we went into retail for the first time, and it was very much intended to be a pop-up retail store that did fitness classes and talks and learning opportunities for our community. And that store is still there 4 years later. We added to that store a number of times before COVID. And actually it might sound strange, but over the last 18 months, while we've been in and out of lockdowns, we've actually opened 8 more locations. So I guess what we're finding is that, yes, the last 18 months have been a bit crazy with everything that's been going on, but people have really been craving those experiences. So whenever they came out of lockdown, they were looking to have those fitness class experiences or learning opportunities, or just actually to go into a store for good old traditional retail reasons, so we've just continued to answer that demand, I guess. And even this year, if I look at the 12 locations, particularly the 4 in the UK, we'll be investing, probably more than $1 million in those locations, just to bring everything up a level again. Because what the customer is looking for now is more of a seamless interaction between the digital experience, but I guess just more experience as well, and more reasons to meet other community members or inspirational people within our community. So I'll probably talk more about some of the features of all of that, but that's kind of an introduction, I guess, as to what we try and provide to the community, but and some of the dynamics from the last couple of years as well.
Thank you. I think anyone who questions whether this sort of strategy of experience and building community in stores, to open 8 stores in the last 18 months, I think that kind of proves that point as it is, but we still have a lot to talk about. Ben, why don't we come to you? How are you seeing this kind of experiential element show up in your stores?
So for anybody who doesn't know, Fairfax and Favour are a shoe, accessory, clothing company. We started 9 years ago, based out in Norfolk. And just like Diarmuid said, we've been using Shopify from the beginning, whether or not it's sort of the POS or the e-com aspect. We've got 3 stores at the minute. We've just opened one in Helmsley, one in Stamford, and our original over in Holt, so just up the road. And we opened the first one in November 2019. So just a few months of experience before everything went into lockdown. So we had to sort of nip about in the few times that we were able to open up. But what we learned from that time was that the sense of community and individual experiences can form a huge part of our shopping experience. So we tried to replicate and bring that into store. So not only do we make each store part and parcel of a community in itself with the different social media offerings and sort of launch parties, competitions surrounding those, but we try to provide very much a unique in-store experience for anyone visiting us. So whether or not that would be just someone having that time just on a retail basis to go in and have a look and shop, or whether or not it be sort of the private appointment basis. And that's something we set aside in every single store. So there's an individual area. We know on the booking form in advance if it's a special occasion, so we can temper and cater for that. So especially for those with birthdays coming up, there's balloons, prosecco. They might even get a cupcake if they're particularly lucky, or dietary requirements allow it. But that is something that we've tried to transpose across all of them, and opening up more and more stores have allowed us to bring that on and really sort of solidify our offering in all of those stores. And it is that people just want to have that experience, something to post about or something to tell their friends about. And we're finding that very much in the feedback or the UGC that we find across our social media channels.
I think that's an interesting thing. I know obviously during lockdown, when numbers were limited, a lot of shops offered that kind of one-on-one shopping experience because they had to. But are you seeing people still kind of enjoying those one-to-one appointments rather than just necessarily coming in and having a browse themselves?
Very much with our products, it's not just necessarily a go in and buy and walk away with it. Very much they're sort of considered purchases, or it might be the different fits we offer, it might be the different colors. So people want that unique tailored experience to not just request one product, but maybe a multitude to find out which one it is in particular they want. And that one-on-one experience with someone in a private room, especially if someone's not necessarily sure or to a degree a little bit nervous about being in store, then we can sort of provide that secluded space for somebody to not only have that one-on-one direct and personal connection, but also to find the product that they really want to purchase at that time.
Yeah. Great.
And just a quick question on that. Do you ask your customers to pre-populate a basket before they come in, or do you look at their transaction history, or do they just come fresh and you start to build that basket together when they're in store?
They do just come fresh, and we don't necessarily like to say build up something in advance. But what we do like to do is just have an idea of how many people or what products they might be looking for, just so that we can either get it in store if we don't necessarily stock it at the time, or we make sure that those items will be available across the platforms, just to ensure that nobody turns up and is disappointed straight away or doesn't have the opportunity to try something on.
Perfect, thanks.
Paul, on to you. At East, you are, I would consider you a very successful lifestyle store. You've built that sort of, a unique feeling around the brand and the business, and in that way, you've kind of built a community around it. How are you? How have you built those connections in that community in store, and do you think that's important to your customers?
Yeah. So, same scenario for anyone who doesn't know Earl of East. We started in 2014. I'm one of the co-founders, and myself and my partner basically started this as like a hobby. We have our own line, and that line stocked in over 250 stores worldwide, but also as part of our kind of growth, we've opened 3 stores in London. I think for us, starting as a market stall, that kind of grassroots way to building a brand has always been really important. And from day one, it's always been about being part of a community. For us, I think both the mix of products, whether that's the products we produce ourselves right here in the city, or whether it's working with a mix of both very established brands like Hay and Firm Living, alongside much more local makers, really helps to place us in the community. Our retail staff spend a lot of time, educating customers on the products, where they're from, and telling that story of these new emerging brands. So it's that alone has very much helped us to kind of become part of the London creative community. I think in addition to that, the same as gym and coffee, workshops have always been a really important part of our retail offering. Again, whether that's teaching our own candle making classes or whether it's bringing in other partners to do workshops or events or exhibitions, so that it really becomes much more than a shop. We combine that with having coffee counters in the store, so it becomes much more habitual and it places us at the centre of that community. But I think, you know, for us, being part of the community is much more than just holding classes. And I think we do a whole host of things with like customers of ours. So often when we shoot for e-coms and for online, if we ever need a model, we'll actually work with people who are regulars of the store and bring them in that way. So it feels like it becomes part of them. And I feel like kind of what we've done therefore is help to create brand ambassadors who then tell our story, which helps to again kind of root us in the local community, whether we're here in King's Cross or whether we're in our newest store in Redchurch Street in Shoreditch. So yeah, I think, you know, that sense of community goes hand in hand with experiential shopping. It's more than just transactional, and it's something that you can't necessarily recreate in the same way online.
Yeah, definitely. Phil, just to conclude on that point, you at Shopify work with a lot of different brands and businesses. So I wondered if you had any sort of examples or initiatives of this sort of experiential trend from your recent encounters.
Yeah, so as you said, Graham, you know, we work with a number of retailers, and we're actually rolling out across Europe at the moment. So probably a lot of my examples would be probably pan-European, but yeah, there's a lot of different opportunities. So we launched Spain a couple of months ago, and there's a real trend on maker spaces. So actually having, you know, they actually make the product in front of you, and you know, people can come in, and it's a real showcase. So we've seen quite a lot of that. You know, there was one of our merchants, Florentine Kitchen Knives, make these beautiful handmade knives for like you know, top chefs, and they make them right there in front of you, and it's such an amazing thing to see. You know, they're selling, making them, and demonstrating them there, knife sharpening and stuff like that. So there's definitely, you know, elements for the more artisan merchants to do that kind of thing. As Ben mentioned, there's a lot of appointment-based retail, and then product launches surrounding that. So new collections coming out, and you know, you see our merchants setting up stations around their store, clearing out space in their store to make room for these stations so that they can, you know, do product demonstrations or, you know, focus on certain elements of the collection. And then there's definitely that building community through workshops, and as Paul mentioned, getting the community involved. So, an example, I was speaking to a merchant recently that looks at knitting supplies of all things, and they run knitting workshops for the community, and they bring in all varying members of the community to support with that, and to give a different angle on that, so it's not such a sales angle. But yeah, we see lots of varying things. I think the key thing that we hear from merchants is it can't be gimmicky. You know, it's got to be something that's repeatable. It can't be a one-off, like a quirky event just for your Instagram page. It's got to be something that really involves the community and keeps going. You know, so you know, it's not too out there. And then you've got the kind of really creating an ambient environment. You know, I had a call with a merchant on Friday, Il Conte in Italy. And they weren't digital native. They've been around for about 40 years. You know, family business, and for them, it's really how do they really get their brand across, and you know, the ambience of their showroom and their tailoring. And so again, it's like clearing the spaces out and using their online store and other locations. Maybe something we'll come on to later, to actually store the inventory so they can clear spaces to really get their brand across. So they had, like, you know, old record players, you know, the old separate systems, and really going for that kind of classic elegance. So again, just making their store feel not so much like a retail environment, but more like someplace that someone would like to spend time, you know, putting a couch in so they can sit there. We've got other merchants that have cleared space so that they can actually create hot desking spaces. They create bags and accessories for photographers. And so they invite these photographers to come in and use that space on a Wednesday afternoon. So again, lots of ways to involve the community, kind of clear the store out and make it feel like, you know, a place where people would really like to be.
Yeah. I think everyone in different words there said it's sort of a store that's more than a store nowadays. Just having it as a transactional hub doesn't really deliver, which kind of takes us on to the next trend that I wanted to unpick. You've all touched on it already, but this kind of buzzword of omnichannel, what does that actually mean in reality? Well, I think as we've all experienced, we've all had to shop online. Maybe some of us have been shopping online for a while, but we also like going back into store. So my definition of omnichannel is kind of the best of both worlds, and the best of both in both places. So, but that can be quite challenging, I'm going to guess, especially when customers now more than ever want to maybe browse online, check what products are in their local store, but then come into store to buy it, or they want to buy online but return in store. The opposite of that also, or this kind of, obviously we have click and collect, or BOPIS, as the Americans call it, buy online, pick up in store. But this obviously creates some kind of logistical issues, and lots of kind of headaches in the back end as well, I imagine. Ben, why don't you start us off with this one? Are there any of these sort of omni-channel services that are resonating with your customers? And how are you kind of tackling the challenges that come with that?
With the omnichannel services, we've definitely found that people want exactly the same experience online as they would in store. So there's almost a seamless transition between the two, and that nobody is really left wanting if they shop on either channel. Certainly recently, and it's not to make sort of Phil blush, but we've really started to leverage Shopify in a big way, especially for the new refund and exchanges platforms that they offer, so that not only can we offer exactly the same services we do online and swap it there and then, but we're also able to use their distinct tagging system and flag customers when and where they bought, what store it was, and when, so that we're able to get that segmentation and deliver personalized content to people. We're able to work out who lives in an area or who has been in store, and therefore offer a more personalized experience in the after sales element to them. But also what we've definitely noticed is with the new refunds and exchange platform, they want to ensure that anything offered is exactly as seamless as it would be online, especially for orders, or whether or not it be exchanges. So we've had to improve and use automations in the back end so that the admin side of it is definitely taken care of, and nobody is left without an order or something, nothing is missed, so that a customer can get it the next day, and that they do get all the notifications just as they would online. So taking that information through, whether or not it be from the product descriptions and the information that's available, allowing someone to almost pre-buy or pre-choose in their head by looking online. You can find exactly the same in store. And in fact, you can even find out where to find it, because we're starting to leverage AR and virtual tours of our stores. So you get that warm and comforting feeling of knowing the place before you step in, and it removes the nervousness or hesitation that might come around through entering a store such as ours because of the preconceptions that people might have.
Yeah.
Ben, sorry, what is the refunds and exchanges platform you mentioned? Is that native to Shopify, or is that through a partner?
It is Shopify's native one, and we've got just through sort of years of operations, we've got a somewhat complex back-end setup that at certain times doesn't like to talk to each other. So we've started to use sort of unique flags within each, so that our operations and warehouse team are perfectly aware of what's happening to stock, what stock might be sitting where, or what's been returned and then exchanged for something else.
I was going to say that it sounds, speaking to people, the biggest, we can say omnichannel offer all these services, click and collect, return in store, etc. But if you don't have that if you don't know where all your stock is, that's where you kind of can come a cropper, let's say. Is that, Phil, is that how one of the ways that you're helping brands and retailers to deliver this, is to really get that single view?
Yeah, so the risk of sounding like a sales pitch here, but yeah, Shopify, we offer a single unified platform view to manage or to view and manage inventory. So whether it be online, offline, or social channels, wherever you sell, wherever your customers buy, or your customers, I mean. But the real clever part about it is it doesn't rely on multiple systems, connected by middleware, and that's where things break down. It's basically one platform, or at least it's native to Shopify. So gets over reliability issues and gives you that single view. So it automatically syncs product information, price, description, SKU counts, images, whatever you change in admin. It'll change in multi-location or what locations you want it to change in, and it'll change it, whatever channel you want it to change in as well. And what happens is it syncs in real time, so you avoid issues like, basically prevents overselling or double selling. So if someone, buys in store, but then you don't actually have that stock to fulfill it, if someone actually comes in, if you buy in store and you don't have the stock to fulfill an online order. And also it allows customers, they can check before they come into store, because the stock's in real time, so they can check what's in stock. They can sign up for restock alerts. They can choose the preferred order fulfillment method, regardless of where they shop. So having that one view and that, one place to manage it all is, we think is, a very important element of ensuring you give that online and offline experience, wherever they want to buy. And then there's all the added benefits, which we've already touched on in terms of curbside pickup, or you buy in store and have it delivered to your house, etc.
Just to jump in there, Phil, definitely one of the bonuses we found, especially with starting events again or in store, where being small Norfolk buildings, they might not have the largest stock rooms available. Then the ability to look in other locations, whether or not it be for in-store staff, or whether or not it be for our customer service team who would get contacted to see if something was available, to be able to see directly there and then that there's 2, 3, 4 of a particular item in a particular place, whether or not it be our Stamford store or Holt store or Helmsley store, and somebody be able to go out and buy it there and then because they're 5-10 minutes away and don't want to waste the journey, has just allowed us to increase that offering and give us that transparency and insight into the different locations.
Yeah, I absolutely love hearing that, because it means you just don't miss a sale. That's one of the things that we want to ensure merchants don't miss that sale. So you're having a conversation, you can be anywhere in the store, and if you can look and see exactly where it is or when it's coming in, then they can basically purchase there and then, your customer, and they can either collect it from another store, or as you said, or have it sent to them. So I love hearing that. It's great.
The events part of that is quite interesting as well, because I think what we're talking about here is omnichannel in terms of, your e-com experience versus your physical retail location, your permanent store. But we would have pop-up events as well. So, for example, 10 days ago, we were the headline sponsor at a health and wellness event in Dublin. So there was 12,000 people there over 2 days. But we used, Shopify POS for all of that. So the reason I say that is just because, you're not doing it separately on a sum up machine or kind of something a bit more, you're kind of hacking around it. And then you've got to catch up with the finance team that week to to kind of recalibrate everything and figure out what was sold and what stock is where. You actually have it all recorded through the same platform, and it's all gone through Shopify, in real time as well. So I suppose it's the point is it's that irregular events as well as your actual physical retail locations as well.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something, actually, Diarmuid, and forgive me for sort of talking so much, but one of certainly the benefits we found, whether or not we'd be doing a small pop-up or an event, is that you don't have to worry about the till system well in advance. You can just pick up the iPad, log in, and that's it. You're ready and raring to go. You've already got the location and the inventory synced. And at the end of the day, you close the iPad and that's it, done. You can then cash up off the back of it. There's no complex procedure in order to set something up. So within 5 minutes, you can be just ready to go and start selling.
Diarmuid, I also wanted to ask you about I believe Jim and Coffee now do click and collect, which is obviously a sort of feeds into this idea of omnichannel services, I guess, being able to buy it online but come in store and pick it up. How is that? How have your customers responded to that? And are you seeing any kind of benefits of drawing them into the store after they've made that purchase?
Yeah, any of those kind of omni-channel services, they seem to react really well to. So for the last number of years, we've been doing, return in store. We don't offer exchanges online, so you can only exchange in store, but it's a good reason to go in, and hopefully one of the team members will upsell you while you're there. Click and collect, we launched that a couple of months ago, and I would say probably in the last 8 weeks, it's just seen a massive uptick. It's incredible, the reaction. Really, I guess the messaging is so clear at the product display page that it's very convincing, I think, for people just to go to the store. And again, we back the team to be able to further sell you on the brand message, or tell you about some events that are coming up in store, or hopefully upsell you as well to another product once you're in there. But I think people are just they don't see any friction internally in a business, so they don't really care if they see the logo anywhere. That's what they want, and they want it their way. People also use a lot of services that we don't offer. You know what I mean? They come in with a basket full online, and they show it to the team member in store. But they that's what they want. They have their basket ready, so some of the products might not be there, and some of them might be. So then it's up to the team member, I guess, to facilitate that as best as they can. But those omni-channel experiences are just so important. Like, we did a huge analysis over the last 6 months, and the value of an omni-channel customer for us is significantly higher than a single channel customer, whether that be online or in store. It's that, I guess, that omni-channel customer has had the full experience. They've had the chance, obviously, to enjoy the digital version, and then they've probably chatted to a team member in store, so they've been fully embedded into the brand and enjoyed all the best parts of it. So it's really, really cool to see that. I guess, to give a slightly different version of it, what we find slightly challenging at the moment is, if you're so clear about the messaging about click and collect, and you're giving live stock count information to the customer at the point of conversion, basically online, it's like, is that person not clicking and maybe just driving to the store and collecting? And so there's kind of a gap of data there for us. I mean, there's a lot of it is kind of gut at the moment between some of our e-commerce team and some of the store managers who are chatting to see, what's the anecdotal feedback from people coming in. But yeah, as I'm a co-founder, so I'm on both sides of that. But you would like to think that you're not discouraging people from converting online if they've made all of that effort to right to the point of conversion. So yeah, there's kind of both sides of that argument, I guess. But we'll take the sale either way.
It's funny you should mention that, actually, Diarmuid, because you find it the other way as well. Is it in-store discovery that has actually caused them to purchase it online when they go home because they don't want to carry it? And it's kind of like, how do you cite or credit? Is it the retail store or the online? It's a kind of challenge that we have heard of. One other thing you reminded me of there's a company, one of our merchants in Australia, called the Sheet Society. They sell bedding, and they've got this really cool, basically they ask their customers if they want to create a basket of stuff, like a cart. And when they come into store, they've got a kind of demo room where they'll set a bedroom scene up with everything they've purchased, so they can see what it will look like in their bedroom. So they do what they want at home, and then they go in and they see it, and then they'll pack it all up for them and post it back to them, or they can take it in store. So again, I'm probably going back to the experiential stuff, but it's that true omni-channel kind of using the digital and then bring it alive in store.
I think that's the point here, that they are so connected, and I think almost to deliver those experiential experiences, you have to be able to operate in an omnichannel way. Paul, at Alavista, you kind of seeing the same thing. It was an interesting question from the audience as well, which maybe I'll put to you first, is, are you seeing people come into store and see what they like, but then go home and kind of, because they don't want to carry it, or maybe, it's something fragile, or the likes? Are you seeing any behaviors like that?
It's been really interesting for us. We opened a bookshop in between the two major lockdowns, and actually one of the major kind of sales points is that people can see the product in real life and then purchase it and have it sent to them. So they're getting the best of both, in the sense that they're able to physically have that tactility and see a product, look through it, see if it's for them, and then either send it to themselves or send it to somebody as a gift. I think we've also seen it like a huge uptake in those items within our store that are larger and heavier. So if I think about our kind of green living category, we have a lot of items that sit somewhere between being furniture and plant accessories. And the increase of sales on those items is insane. And it's because people are able to see it in store, but then we send it to them. And then it kind of works back the other way. So one of the things we've been seeing in terms of driving people to store is using Shopify's web chat, so using Shopify inbox. We've both decreased the huge amount of emails we were getting for customer service queries, whilst also being able to either drive people to store straight away by telling them where the item is on display, or doing it the other way where we just send them the product and they're checking out immediately online. And I think that disconnect before is, it's a hassle to see something online and then email, whereas they can literally do it on the within the online store, find out where it is and then choose to come and see it, or just purchase it straight away. So I think for us, it really is the best of both. Using a fully integrated POS and online system alongside the stores has allowed us to just be a lot smarter and become a lot more efficient, but also a lot of the items, we're a candle brand. They're very much sensorial. People want to come and see it and smell it. But there's a lot of items within our product catalogue that are a bit of a pain to carry about with you, whether that's books or slightly heavier items. And now we've been able to literally, sell it in store and then ship it to the customer, and it's with them in the next couple of days. And I think that's been a real game changer for us.
I think also I've spoken to particularly fashion brands and retailers that are the same, as more people, we've talked a lot about this experiential idea of shopping, but you go shopping and then maybe you go to the cinema and you go for dinner and you go for a drink afterwards. You don't want to be carrying your bags around with you. So I think that will definitely trickle down into fashion as well. It'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I think for us, both of our locations, we're in Coldrops Yard and King's Cross, which is a place where people come and spend the day, and then the same with Redchurch Street. We also do a lot of shipping internationally, which has been very interesting for us. So in our Shoreditch store, there's a huge amount of American tourism there, and their basket size is big. They come with deep pockets, but they want to do the shopping and then just have it sent home. And so that's been really useful for us as well, and just it all being so connected, so the guys in store can do that and assist the customer, but it can still get shipped, is just brilliant.
Moving on, we are running a little bit out of time, so we'll get through this one a bit quicker, maybe. You've all mentioned, staffs. We're talking about these experiential things. We're talking about appointments and learning and kind of really educating people on the product. What this says to me is that the role of store staff is changing. They don't just live behind the till or replen shelves anymore. But I'm really interested to know, you guys, you're out there yourselves. How are you seeing your staff's role change? And are you looking for different skills, or are you teaching them new skills? What is really important to you in your staff? Why don't we start with Jim and Coffee? Because I know you even kind of refer to your staff in a slightly different way, which I find quite interesting. Tell us about that.
Yeah, call them team members. I call everybody team members, but we call our physical locations our clubhouses, because that's the atmosphere that we want to create in store, and there is events and experiences there, so it's not just a physical retail location. Our team members now kind of do everything. They're amazing. During lockdown, they were helping me with and the online customer service team. they're the best people to be on Zendesk or whatever platform you're using, because they know the product so well and they know the customers so well. So with a small bit of, online and systems training, they were able to adapt to that so quickly. They were also able to give virtual kind of styling sessions with different customers during lockdown, because they had that relationship. And I think somebody mentioned segmentation earlier, but that is really key, in that still talking to those physical retail customers during lockdowns was really important. Maintaining that relationship between those team members and those customers that would come in quite regularly. But yeah, if you work in a Gym Plus Coffee clubhouse now, you're probably a stylist, a traditional retail staff member. You're probably a social media star in some way. You're definitely an event host. You're probably a kind of a pseudo personal trainer, or there's just so much that goes into it. And what's really cool to see, and we're all very proud of it, is that they have that pride to create that atmosphere, in the clubhouse. That's what they want to get across. They invite you in, sit you down, and offer you a cup of coffee. If you're at an event, they'll encourage you to hang around afterwards. So it's certainly not a what size are you looking for kind of opening question. It's a very different relationship than that. And that's I guess when you add all that stuff up together, that's why the omnichannel customer is probably more valuable to us, because they just have a very, very different relationship with our team members than you would do, I think, with more traditionally focused brands.
And you particularly spoke about that kind of appointment one-on-one approach earlier. How are you arming your staff with the capabilities to deliver that kind of elevated experience? We said that a lot today, experiential.
Yeah, that elevated experience is something that we don't necessarily, I would say, look for in a team member, but we just want team members and staff in different locations to be themselves. But the expectation of everybody is that they can take on private appointments whenever it is, and they can provide that service, that one-on-one time. The one we see referenced very often is sort of that personal touch and above and beyond. And I mean, to a certain extent, depending on the customer, it can be sort of running around for half an hour trying on multiple things. But at the very least, that person's had that experience in store and they've been able to try what they want. Maybe they haven't found the perfect item, but they've got something that they want ultimately. Now, that is backed up by having that secluded area, by Prosecco, coffee, by having a cupcake, it's their birthday, or a balloon. So it's those small personal touches that elevate the experience just from the start. But one of the things we found, especially across all our different channels, is because so much information is available online and the product catalog is getting bigger and bigger, then staff members are expected to be experts in nigh on everything that we offer, and especially attracting newer customers in store, then they might not necessarily know the entire catalog or everything that we offer. So what we found, our staff have to have that personal connection to the brand as well, whether or not that is wearing the product, even outside of work, that it's something that they want to get involved in, and that we inform them all of new releases, the new products coming up, in-store exclusives, so that they're armed with that knowledge well in advance, so that if anybody comes in asking about a particular product we haven't released yet, or one that just today we had in-store exclusives launch, then our in-store teams, but also our customer service team online, because they are nigh on one of the same, depending on who you're talking to, whether or not it be through an electronic medium or in person, they have to have that knowledge, because the customer expectation is that they can look online, talk to somebody, and they will get exactly the right information there and then.
Yeah. Paul, I saw you nodding. Do you, as you said, your products, a lot of your products are quite sensorial and you kind of need to be there and experience them. Is that a challenge when it comes to sort of training staff up on a whole catalogue of products?
In our first store, we also had our studio behind, so the people who were making the candles were also the people who were advising customers on the scent. As we've grown, that's changed a little, but I think we see our retail team as hosts, so we want them to be as skilled up as possible, and obviously we do all the usual internal things to make sure they're fully trained on the product. But I think ultimately, because of the nature of them, like candles specifically, was kind of crazy for us to see how many people did just make that switch from buying them physical to buying them online. But I think the discovery for a lot of people of our brand still happens in real life first, and therefore it's just like really important to make sure that the people who are on our team are passionate about the products we sell and do kind of live and breathe the brand. And I think that is a big part of our hiring. A lot of the people who join the team have discovered the brand in some way, whether that's through attending a workshop or they're regular customers, and then they join the team. And I think the future of physical retail, because it is all experience driven, the nature of the kinds of people who are going to work in retail is going to change. And I think most retailers probably on watching this will see there's been a bit of a shift in the kinds of people who actually do want to work in retail. And I think that's partly because the industry is changing so much. So we're seeing a big move of people come from hospitality backgrounds and come into retail, in part, I think, because the hours are a little bit more sociable, but also because of the skill set we're looking for has changed, and it is less about just a transaction, and it's more about them having a viewpoint and an opinion and a passion about what it is we sell and do. I don't know if that answered the question.
No, good. Phil, to wrap up, is this you're seeing you work across lots of categories? Is this what you're seeing? And I'm kind of, we're saying we're expecting a lot more from staff, but how are you seeing brands and retailers kind of invest in technology that can help them do that?
Yeah, so in terms of the products that we build, obviously we get that feedback from merchants in terms of what they require. I think one of the key areas that we help retailers and merchants is through having that one viewpoint online. I know I keep talking about that, but having that one view of the customer, the one customer view as well as the one product view. So what it means is we just make it far easier for the teams and staff, that Paul mentioned, to have more meaningful conversations by arming them with that data. So the sales staff or members of the team can see what the customers bought, what the preferences are, and immediately it just starts them on a slightly different conversation rather than your classic, how can I help you? It's like, right, okay, I've got an idea for you, or have you tried this before? I see that you've been buying this. So I think it's just we just help with that conversation so they can nail the sale, so they can have more meaningful conversations. And then on top of that, something we spoke about with Ben earlier, you've got the view of where the stock is. So if you get to the point of the conversation, you can say, actually, we've got that in that store, or we've got it in this location and we'll send it to you. So it's just making it, far more seamless, frictionless for them to have these conversations. And that's what we build our products for.
One of the, just nipping off the back of that, Phil, as well, what we've also found is that we're able to leverage our e-commerce site to very much support the physical stores that we have. So the entire setup of being able to deliver next day, 2-day, internationally, depending on where you are, would also connect that customer information and to provide that personalized experience of what someone's had in the past. Tied throughout, say, the Shopify platform or our other platforms, means that somebody can go in and we're using the power of the internet effectively that we've got set up to ensure someone gets something when they need it.
Perfect, absolutely perfect. Again, I love hearing that kind of frictionless transaction process. It's it's great.
Well, we are running slightly out of time. We've got quite a few questions from the audience, which we'll try and get to a couple of them. But I always like to end these webinars with a bit of a wrap up of, we've covered quite a lot there, but I wanted to ask the panel to kind of circle back to the very beginning. The kind of question was, how do you harness the power of online in store If you were to kind of give one piece of information or one piece of advice or sum up what you've said today, what would you say to our audience? Diarmuid, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Yeah, I think we mentioned a few times there, whether it's seamless or frictionless or whatever you want to call it. I think it's kind of an expected bare minimum now, that you have those services. And we operate in a number of markets, but particularly in the UK more so. It's very expectant customer, let's say. I think segmentation is really, really important. You need to make sure you're delivering the right messages to the right people. If one person just wants to be a specific, we have a store in Liverpool 1, if they only want to be kind of spoken to as a Liverpool 1 customer, then you should speak to them in that way. So you really do need that that kind of cleanliness of that data, I think, really, and a strong segmentation approach. But then most of all, as we've been discussing, you just need to provide amazing experiences. There has to be a reason to come in store now. If there is no real reason to come in store apart from just convenience, well then people will just shop online. There's no reason to kind of go to the location. So there has to be that something extra, whether that's through the team members themselves and just the amazing service they give, or actually the hosting of an event or some sort of experience. So yeah, they would be the kind of the three areas for me.
Ben?
Certainly the working off the back of sort of what Dan has said is good. He covered a lot of what I was going to say, unfortunately, but certainly providing that transparency and clarity of information to your team members, whether or not it be in store or a head office. That is really the key. Nobody wants to be running around finding out information while they could otherwise be serving someone. If you have the same platform carrying on through from online to the POS system, the bricks and mortar stores that you've got set up, not only do you have the opportunity for segmentation, or you have customers' previous details, you have an idea of what stock is available where, then your team members can just get on with the job and provide that personal experience. They've got the time to be able to offer advice or be able to order something there and then, to be able to use the push cart system or the send an abandoned basket to someone, whatever it might be, with the POS system, so that they can just provide that memorable experience and nothing is lacking in the background that would otherwise stop them.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's even before segmenting customers, it's amazing how coming into the pandemic, so many store owners and friends who've got businesses similar to ours didn't have an integrated system, and I think didn't fully appreciate the importance of online. I think that has improved, but I think there's a huge amount of businesses out there that still don't use an integrated system. And before even getting to segment the customers, haven't even gone through the process of really understanding the power of registering them in store and building a community. And I think if you can do that, that's when you really start to see the lifetime value of a customer increase, because there's plenty of stores out there, I think, who have great footfall but actually still operate in that much more transactional manner, and those customers might be buying online as well as being in store, but they actually don't track that in any way, because then they're not checking if a customer's registered at the point of purchase, they're not tracking that sale. And I think so even before all of those things, that's where it really needs to start, because we've seen our subscribers increase dramatically in the last 2 years, and I think also seen the real increase in the lifetime value of a customer. So I think that's where it starts, and then you go from there. And then once you've got a big enough subscriber base, you can look at segmenting. But I think it really starts at that grassroots level of kind of getting to know your customer and actually tracking what it is and how they're engaging with you, both online and in real life.
Excellent. Phil, you have anything to wrap up from there?
No, I think the merchants have covered it extremely well. I think one thing for me is I think it's still 70% of commerce happens in person. So there's a huge opportunity there, in terms of for retailers to really give a unified or consistent experience across all platforms. And I think they both help each other, online and offline. So it's really just getting that experience right for each channel, because consumers are now expecting, they've leveled up in terms of their expectations of what they expect online and offline. And I think by having a unified system, you can offer that.
Now, in the last few minutes, I'm going to try and do some quick fires from the audience. So let's try and get through as many as we can. There's a few questions around the concept of fulfilling web orders from stores in instances where maybe the warehouse or the web store has sold out. How are you finding that working? And the person has asked, and how are you able to maintain standards? I'm guessing that's, time and delivery. And then also if that person is in the shop fulfilling that order, are they away from customers for a period? Anyone have any responses to that, positive or negative? You're not doing it, and the reason why? No?
I'd say learning from experience, although it's not something we offer at the minute, it's something we want to offer. We create something around the blue box. So it's the product that arrives in. It's the difficulties we've found in the past with events, but something that we want to deliver in store and online is make sure that the product that arrives with somebody, whether or not be in hand or by post, is exactly the same. So you still get that same luxury experience of opening the blue box, the dust bags, or whatever else it might be. And it's just raising that consistency and the expectation among team members so that they can deliver that if somebody is purchasing.
Someone has asked about the motivations for click and collect, and sort of, I'm guessing that's both from the consumer, but also from you as a retailer. Maybe could get that from Jim and Coffee's point of view. As you've already said, the uptake has been good. So clearly the customers want it. Was it difficult to implement? Is it a bit of a headache? Any insight?
Yeah, slightly, small bit, but it's been worth it now. I think the benefit for the customer is just certainty. They're in control. They get communicated to when the order is ready to actually collect it, which is obviously usually very quickly. And I think delivery for people is very convenient, but it's very convenient when you're always at home. And people are just out and about a lot more now. And I certainly know from experience on customer service channels over the last year or two that sometimes people's locations still have a nightmare with their local delivery partner, So if you can guarantee that you can pick it up at a time that's convenient for you and you're going to be in that location anyway, a lot of people actually prefer the certainty over speed, or, it's just, they're going to be doing their journey anyway. So they'll just drop in, and hopefully they like the experience overall. But that seems to be what it is. It's the certainty of having it and picking the time when you want to come in and pick it up.
Yeah. Okay.
I think what we've seen, both of our kind of main locations are in, like shopping destinations with restaurants and stuff around them. Where we see a lot of people using local pickup is for gifting. So they want to know something's there. They want to buy it ahead of time and browse, when they're at home, but then they can come in and collect it on their way to a birthday dinner. So we do a lot of customization on our candles where they can choose a name to go on the label. They're very popular with local pickup, but it definitely feels like one of the customer motivations is like the convenience of shopping on their own time, but then just collecting in store. And it's certainly like gifting seems like a real opportunity for that.
I also think, from my point of view, delivery can be so temperamental, let's say, that if you can go in and you can get it for sure, especially if it's a gift, that's a help. To end, because we are already out of time, but I quite like this question, which has come from somebody who says they're a health and wellness brand. They have strong D2C, they're in over 20 boutiques and fitness studios. How do you advise building that sense of community that we talked about at the beginning, when they're currently in all these different channels? It's not necessarily their stores or it's not necessarily their website. How do you make the customers feel part of the same community no matter where they buy their product from? Anyone have any? Because when you're not in control of the community, I guess, is the question.
The one thing we certainly found, and it experienced a huge growth during lockdown, was the Fairfax and Favour Club that we've got on Facebook. So not only do we ask people just to tag us and use the hashtags that we might be able to pull through for the UGC, but we create a sense of community through it, not only through competitions, but allowing people to post regularly, whether or not it's asking questions about the fit of something or just sharing a photo, whether or not it's getting involved in an event, or whether or not it's somebody's been up to one of the stores and purchased something, then it means that everybody feels part of the same group. They are all posting about different products that they've got, the new latest purchase, they're looking for advice, and we leave it effectively to run itself. Although there is a degree of moderation that needs to happen, people do answer the questions for us, and that just builds the base for us and means customers can enjoy the product.
Definitely. I mean, we didn't even get to talk about social media today, but of course that is definitely a huge part of this. As I said, we are unfortunately out of time. For all of those questions that we got by the Q&A, we'll do our best to connect you with the right panelist and get an answer to you as soon as we can. But thank you to our panel, thank you to Shopify, and thank you to our audience for joining us. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.